No beat, riding for Wally. Kill everybody walking. You know that it's on the finest. BT, how they want you bringing no beat, riding for Wally. Kill everybody walking. You know that it's on the finest.
What's going on, guys? I appreciate you joining me on the Civility Mindset channel. Today I brought a few guns to kind of do some show and tell with. Gifts for both of my family and I in a training capacity. Just note also, I am editing a video that I just did Christmas Eve, which would have been Saturday. It's kind of drawn out. It's about an hour and some change with a friend of mine. And he's a beginner, he's new. So I don't know, it's not, jam-packed full of action and all this other stuff. It's like the stuff that you see me doing and, moving and shooting and doing all that. He's new to weapons and tactical shooting. So he's had weapons training before in his day, prior to this video that will be coming out, but nothing extensive, right? So static shooting range, present, fire, keep your finger off the trigger, basic stuff like that for him probably prior to this video. This video is a little bit of shooting, a little bit of moving, and a little bit of, drawing and all this stuff, especially with garment. He's going to have to figure out garment selections and stuff like that later. But these are all things that he had to understand, come and know and combat before that day. So this is why, when you go out into the shooting ranges and stuff like that, you kind of have to figure out what you are utilizing, because what ends up happening is, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So the moment you have your weapon, you bring it out, you present, you shoot, and you aim, you fire, you do all these things. You never know when all of a sudden your garment gets in the way and things just become, your plan goes right out the window, But anyway, so that being said, I will show you guys as soon as I can that video. But for now, I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about a few goodies that I had bought. Not for, the holidays. This was bought a little bit ago. You guys have seen this being shot already on a video. I just want to make sure that you guys know it is clear. Weapon is completely clear. Magazine on empty. This thing is badass, man. If you guys have a child that you plan on getting into shooting, this is one of the most phenomenal weapons I have ever come across for that type of situation. So this is a Ruger 1022, and this goes probably about up to 100 yards, maybe more. I'm not going to ever take it past 100 yards. This is strictly for my son to get used to being behind the trigger, putting his face on the cheek well, and having his eyes pointed in the right direction, being able to identify a target and take the shot, right? So this is for him to earn every round, right? So when taking this and, using the action, what ends up happening is you feel the crunch of the weapon going into the barrel. The round going into the barrel. You feel all the movements, especially when you feel that immediate reaction to when you expel that round out of the barrel. It inevitably turns into an oh shit moment, if you will, for everyone. Doesn't matter who it is, right? So I want to get my son to understand that any gun that is in his possession or in his hand, it is a weapon that could potentially kill something and or someone. So he needs to respect all firearms, any firearm period. And this is where to start. This is the perfect platform to start with. The second weapon that I chose to purchase for my son, and don't get me wrong, my youngest will utilize these as well, and my fiance, my mom, my dad, people like that who have not been around firearms much and if or ever. This thing is badass. So this is an M&P 22 long rifle, which is 16-inch barrel. So I put a regular stock on. I put Magpul furniture on here. I forget what is it, B5 Systems, whatever that is. I just saw it and I liked it and it felt good in the hand. Grabbed it up. I usually go with Magpul, but I saw this and I wanted to give it a shot. Didn't really like it as much as my Magpul stuff, so I threw it on my son's, and he will inevitably either like this and or my Magpul stuff, which really there's not much of a difference except here it's a little girthier, a little fatter when you grab it, plus the rubber, it's soft on the hand. But we'll see. It's up to him. He might love this more, he might love the other. I put a Strike Industries hand stop on here because I want him to know what C-clamping is. This, don't get me wrong, this, it's going to be a while before he uses this. He's 3 years old, so he's going to be using, the 1022 for a while, right? So maybe from 3 to maybe 5 to 7. And then from 7 years old or so, hopefully 5 if he's really good and adapts to it all. But at 7 years old, he will more than likely be using this weapon, and my other son will then be on to the 1022. And once my son has grasped this enough, he will be able to move to the pistol. So again, this is, and just to let you guys know, yes, empty as well. Just to let you guys know, nothing special is gonna go on here until maybe later in life, if ever, because honestly, this True Glow trash is it's actually taking some hits. I used to have it on a shotgun, believe it or not. When I had it on the shotgun, I tested it. This thing stayed true. So I was going to, this was only for a 9mm, so I put it on and just didn't like how big and clunky and nasty it looks. But inevitably I kept it because I can't see getting rid of something that costs quite a bit for an airsoft rifle kind of material optic. So I ended up using this for airsoft for quite a bit. And then I put it on here because if you guys know enough about shooting 22s, you know it's pretty much a deadly airsoft gun, right? So that being said, this thing is awesome. You know, you put some Magpul furniture on here to get some, you know, sexy aesthetics, and then you put this on here. Like I said, I could put Magpul on there for him, depending, but I'm not spending extra money on something of this learning curve kind of weapon. This isn't something he's going to be on for very long, maybe like 5 years before he moves up to 223, maybe even 3 years, depending. My son's maturity level is insanely high, so I wouldn't be using this for a while until I know that his performance physically and mentally would be up there. But anyway, so that is this little cool 16-inch M&P, what do you call it, 22 rifle, which again, 25 rounds, that's pretty awesome for a kid. So we'll see just how long it takes for him to utilize that weapon. And normally magazines are like $40 for some reason. I got them for like 20, 25. It was awesome. So I got like 3 of those outside of that. So he has 4 mags now altogether. And now this right here is his Glock 44. This thing is awesome. I've trained quite a few people with this, and this is the weapon of choice for me to train anybody with. I'm a Glock guy, so if you have something else of personal preference, I would suggest you go with the 22 that's similar. But since I'm a Glock guy, this is as similar as it gets. So this is a Gen 5 Glock 44 22 long rifle pistol. So this thing, it holds 10 rounds. There's nothing special about this other than the fact that it emulates the same Glock 19 that I would use on a regular day-to-day basis. So this gun is exactly what you would need it to be, except for the weight is not there. But the magazines also, they load in a different way. They're spring loaded in a way where you pull your thumbs on each side and you put them in. But honestly, there's really not big differences with this. The sights, I'm never going to change the sights because it's a training pistol. So, you'll find the harder this becomes, and then when we start upgrading things, the easier the upgrades will make it. So I want him to understand this stuff first before we move on to a much more sophisticated yet helpful system. So I will not be changing the rear sights. I will not be changing the front sights. This stays as is. So it's going to be harder for him to get a sight picture, make him work harder, so that this way when he gets one of my weapons in his hands, he'll just immediately pop, and then he'll see the front sight just light up. So but anyway, so this 22 is an amazing starter weapon, but he will also not be touching this until maybe 10 years old or so. So there's some time between each one of these. There's levels to these things. And with those levels, listen, guys, I mean, as a dad, I already know how it can be. It can be frustrating. So each one of those levels, you got to know his competency and his maturity. So guys out there, don't push it. I know I can push things pretty far. I would suggest just getting the long rifle, having fun with them, put them on your lap, or design a chair or something for him, so where all he has to do is pop open his sights and just get real comfortable and take that shot. Or I don't know, have him stand on something and just kind of post up like this. But I'm not really a big fan of all of that. I'd much rather have control of him as well. So I'd rather have him on my lap or on a chair or a seat that I've created, which I'm kind of trying to develop one right now. If not, what I'm going to do is get a booster seat and just have him sit in the booster seat and me be directly behind, and figure out a way to either strap it, which this doesn't kick, right? So 22s don't kick. I just don't want him to fall and have a bad experience thinking guns are scary when they're not. He might have just slipped and fell. So I want to create some kind of platform with a booster seat that he can stand up, sit down, apply pressure to certain things, and learn how to load the magazines and or manipulate the weapon with comfortability. So anyway, other than that, then the AR-15 style rifle, that's going to be some time, right? So I don't want to jump in from anything too much, right? So that thing is way too heavy for him. Like, okay, I can pick this up and wield it really easily, sure, but this thing is heavy. My kid is used to toy guns that he plays with in the house, and that right there would be way too heavy for him. So I'd say another 3 years before he even gets to that. So he'll be around 6-7 years old before he gets to that. And then again, around 10 years old when he can get to the pistols, unless he's mature enough, right? So if he's mature enough and his hands are big enough to utilize the weapon appropriately, then we'll go from there. But yeah, that's it. So I just wanted to show you guys, that these rifles and pistol are more of a training thing that you don't have to just get for your son or your daughter. You can get that for the whole family, entry level stuff, and get people starting to get shooting. Super cost effective. You can use about $50 and I think you get 500 rounds right now. That's insane. That's amazing, right? So imagine 500 reps on a weapon that you have. but they can't use yet, right? 500 rounds, and then all of a sudden they pick up an AR-15 later, and they load the magazine, rack the magazine, the slide is locked or not locked, and it sends it up front to the barrel, and they are comfortable with every step of the way. This had probably done everything for that. You know what I mean? Like, this thing is badass. And for it being a really cheap, and don't get me wrong, cheap was like $400. You know what I mean? I'm not acting like this was pennies. But actually, what was it? It was, I think it was like 3 something. It was almost 4, if not 4. But regardless, this thing is an amazing weapon for people to get started shooting. So, you know, you get your grandmother, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother who's never shot a weapon before, and you give them this. They practice 500 rounds with this or so, or maybe 1,000 rounds with this or so. And then you give them your AR-15. Chances are they're going to be pretty damn good at it because you taught them enough. And if you've got it sighted incorrectly and appropriately, doesn't really matter who picks up your weapon. More than likely, it's going to be on target if you know how to zero your weapon in. So I'll be zeroing in this one. The 1022 was zeroed in on a previous episode at 50 yards, right? So dead center at 50 yards, nothing else, nothing more. I'm not going to take it out at 100 because I think that would be stupid. I'm sure other people do, and great, good for you. But for me, 50 yards is more than adequate enough to get the target I need, right? For my son to get used to shooting, see it, and walk up and down, grab the paper, come back, and have a good day about it, right? Same thing with the 16-inch rifle. As soon as I can, maybe this weekend, I'm going to take this thing out, zero it in at maybe 50 yards, and then call it a day. That's it. I'm going to zero it in at 10 yards first, move out to 50, the same as I do any other rifle. And the Glock is self-explanatory. It's just a pistol that he will eventually be able to utilize when his maturity level is there. But anyway, that's it for today, guys. I just wanted to show you guys that, and I just wanted to talk about him for a little bit because I am super excited to introduce my son into shooting, and he really is excited to go shooting. He's 3 years old. So before I go, guys, not for nothing, I know I'm a bit of a dick, and I know probably you guys are as well if you're shooting and you're meticulous about certain things about shooting, like, you know, finger on the trigger, not killing somebody, pointing it in the right direction, right? These are things that we can probably overdo, right? So don't drill your kids too much. Don't overdo it. Make sure it's a fun experience for them as much as possible. Even if they're missing all the time, just have fun with it. $50 for 500 rounds. I mean, can you really be mad at any of that? Who cares? So please, by all means, make sure you have a good time doing it. And I think one of my clients is here, one of my police officers. So anyway, I love you guys. I appreciate you. Get out there and train, and, you know, get your kids as close to the range as possible, as young as possible, because the later on they get filled with ideologies that are just bullshit, and you know it. So all right, guys, I love you. Get out there and train. Be safe. Peace.